in the comment section below, enter your, if you're watching this live, hashtag live and where you're watching it from. And if you're watching it as a replay, hashtag replay and where you're watching it from. Again, it's all about getting some Facebook juice, feeding the Facebook algorithm. It helps everybody out if we can do that. Now today, as I warned before, the topic is going to be called, is all about not burning calories. Okay, yeah, no, it's nothing to do with weight loss. If you're here to look at to find out how to lose weight, tough. You're not going to find out that. And if you're wanting here to gain weight, you're not going to find that either. It's nothing about weight itself. This is all about communicating. And when we talk about not burning calories, we're trying to get, or what we're looking at doing is preventing or minimizing the calories readers have to burn to understand your communication. Okay, so that's really what we're talking about here. Now let me give you a bit of a story. There's a backstory to this. Back in, I think it was 1989 or 1990, it's a while ago now, some 30 years ago, I was working on a project with Telstra, and it was in conjunction with the company I was actually employed by called Datamail, and we're looking at re-engineering the Telstra telephone bill. Now those of you who've got a bit of an age would actually remember, or may remember, that the Telstra's telephone bills used to be 5 little slips of paper stuck into an envelope. They're very confusing, very difficult to work out what's what. So people didn't bother, they just went to the what's the dollars at the end and then paid that. And we were asked in by Telstra to redesign the bill and put it out there in a much more modern way. And so to that end, Telstra connected us with an organisation within the Australian National University out of Canberra, ANU at Canberra, and that there was a department called CRIA. CRIA stands, that's C-R-I-A, it stands for the Communications Research Institute of Australia. I don't even know if it still exists, but if it does, it'll be interesting to catch up with their latest research. But what they actually did was research how people communicated with a telephone bill, and they expanded to utility bills. And there was some very, very interesting stuff came out of it, down to looking at, well, the primary aim of it was to overall maximise the comprehension a reader has. Now, the intent here was that if the bill communicated the information correctly and simply, the demand on the call centres would drop dramatically. So that was really what the intent was, is to improve that level of communication to reduce the customer call centre costs, ultimately, and also to get people to pay the bill on time. So that stopped and reduced the default, or late payments. And with the research that this CRIA conducted, it came back as very, very interesting and thought-provoking for me, and it's something that I've carried on throughout my whole marketing career ever since. And one of the things that they looked at was, first off, was fonts. Which font communicated more clearly. And they came down to the fonts that have a serif. You've heard of, I don't know if you understand fonts, but there's serif fonts and sans serif fonts. Sans serifs don't have these little twiggles on the end of each of the characters, whereas a serif font does. Now, a serif font was proven to improve comprehension by 14%. That number sticks in my head, 14%. So that's why when we format a book, we use a serif font. And again, it's all about comprehension. Because at the end of the day, your book is about communicating. You're communicating a story, you're communicating a theme, or if it's a business book, you're actually communicating knowledge. And you want people to comprehend it and consume it and get value out of it. So that's what we look for, and that's why we always, look at how the appearance of the pages and the formatting of the pages can improve that. Now, the other things that came out strongly was where certain things were positioned on a page. So in a book, it's quite common. You'll see, a chapter heading will start on a new page, and it's always in a pretty similar position. You wouldn't have the chapter heading, a new chapter starting halfway through a page. You always start at the top of a new page because that's what people are expecting. And when they're expecting it, they're not thinking. They'll immediately see it. Their subconscious kicks in and they go, new chapter. Okay. But if it was buried in the middle of a page, the subconscious is going, not expecting it here. Your brain's going to be burning calories trying to understand exactly what it is. Now, it might only be for a millisecond that it burns calories, but every calorie burnt means that you're reducing the comprehension of your work. So we, try hard to avoid doing that. Okay? And one of the things that, we look at, we see some people when they present a manuscript to us, they use some wonderful scripty fonts, particularly in headings, chapter headings and what have you. And that's something that we, again, from the Cryer research, was avoid like the plague, because that just decimated comprehension when you used a scripty type fonts. It may look pleasant on the page. You might look at it and go, wow, that's a pretty page. But it's not about being pretty. It's about being understood. It's about getting your message across. And so we go through and we change all of those scripted fonts. We need to bring that back to a proper serif font. And again, that'll just help people understand and comprehend what that next section or what's going in underneath that heading is going to be all about. So fonts is a very important part of it. When it comes to editing is another thing where we can easily burn calories. Okay. When we edit a book, well, we only shallow edit a book, we don't deep edit, but when we shallow edit a book, we're looking at punctuation, spelling, and grammar. Particularly, they're the key things, but we find things like tautologies, redundant words, which we bring down to a simplified form. Again, it's about minimising the calorie burn. And when it comes to editing, there's things like, and this is a project that we had this week, where there's two ways of presenting a word. And the particular words were salesperson. Okay. Now, it's correct that you can present that as two words, sales, then person. But it's slightly more technically correct if it's one word, salesperson, as a one word. Now, you can, I'm not fussed about this, whether it's the most technically correct or not. The key thing is that it's consistent throughout the whole of the manuscript. If you chop and change around, you're again causing people to burn calories. And that's a no-no. We don't want them to burn calories. So consistency is a key thing when it comes to editing as well. Okay. So, and like I say, redundant words like tautologies, removing those redundant words, again, simplifies the understanding for the reader. And that's important. Now, in your everyday life, you'll actually see things that will, I think, bring this home for you as well, this whole concept of don't burn calories. One of the ones that I see, this is outside of books, but I see it basically every single day. And it's to do with name or an address. So when you get an address on an envelope, for example, or on a letterhead or an email signature, it can be like, or in a business card, is another example of it. They can be all over the place. Now, many years ago, Australia Post introduced standardised correct addressing approaches to the Australian market. And basically what they were doing was following international addressing standards. And the reason for why they were driving this was because they were installing equipment that would read the address using OCR, optical character recognition, and route the mail to the correct delivery points. Now, the whole idea of this was to reduce the time and the cost of processing letters through their system, through their whole equipment and the whole end-to-end process for delivering of mail. And so the standardised correct addressing had become standard right across Australia. And for many, many years, everybody just followed it, those standard addresses. But it just seems that today that doesn't exist anymore. People are all over the place. And what they're doing is making their customers and their prospects burn calories to work out the address. Very quickly, the standard address routine is, you've got your first name, last name, as your first line. Then you've got address line 1, which is usually, it might be Unit 45, 125 Highbury Road. Address line 2, if you've got a long address, you can run it over 2 lines. Then address line 3 is all uppercase, and it should be suburb, state, postcode, and that's your last line of address. And when you do it this way, their machines will read it easily, but people now we're so used to seeing it that way that when they see your address, they'll actually be able to pick your address very easily, work it out without burning calories. Now, I encourage you, just have a look at addressed mail. So the next time you get a bill in your mail, have a look at that and you'll see how that has been addressed, and you'll see that it followed that correct addressing routines. Now, I encourage you to, whenever you put your address down, put it down, just your email signature so you follow that particular guidelines. It's just a simple little thing, but it improves comprehension and improves engagement with your customers. Another one where we see inconsistency to standards that causes calorie burn is in mobile phone numbers. Okay, this is again coming back to this is actually something we worked out and came in parallel with what we were doing with Cryer when Telstra was basically in the thick of introducing mobile phones. Now, when phone systems, if you look at the normal phone, a landline phone number, that's got an area code, so 02, then it has 4 characters, 1, 2, 3, so it's 02, 1, 2, 3, 4, space, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you've got a total of 10 numbers making up a landline number. When you actually looked at a mobile phone number, it actually has 10 characters as well. Now, if you presented the characters in the same format as a landline, people could easily get confused between, is it a landline or is it a mobile? Again, it was very important, particularly back in those days, because it was massively expensive to ring a mobile number compared to a landline. And so they wanted to differentiate the two of them. So Cryer came up with this numbering approach, which is for a mobile phone, 0400, for example, so 4 characters, and then 3 space, then 3. So it would be, 0400 123 space 123. Now we're starting to see people get that confused, which is making it really difficult to communicate and again burn calories, where they're starting to run their own race when it comes to presenting the numbers in their telephone number, their mobile phone number. And they may have some reasons for doing it, because they've got there's double numbers and triple numbers, and they can basically say 666, it's 0400, 5 666 28. And suddenly the spacing and what have you disappears and creates confusion in people's minds. Again, burning calories. And that's the last thing you want to be doing with your customers, your prospects, but also with your readers. So just keep it simple. Follow the standards, and the communication process will actually improve dramatically. Now, to give you some, I mentioned about originally the Telstra results. What they were trying to achieve was reduce demand on call centre, as well as improve or reduce the number of late payments by changing and the way they communicated to their customers. I've got the results. I know what they are. They're quite amazing. It was over a 25%, immediately over 25% reduction on loads on their call centre. And this was when the first bills started to go out. I believe it grew to close on 60% after people got used to the new bill. And, probably 6 months, 7 months down the track. So good communications, not burning calories, meant massive cost improvements in Telstra, but also massive service improvements for their customers. When it came to late payments were running at, I think it was about 18, 19%. It dropped to 4%. So again, the need to over-communicate, with reminders and what have you, was basically just decimated. Again, clear, consistent communication was the key, and understanding how people interact with it and not burn, and also eliminating or minimising the amount of calories they burn, had massive improvements on that. So much so that the standards that were developed for the Telstra bill now flow through every bill, utility bill out there, bank statements, etc., etc. And you'll see, if you look at them, you'll see this commonality amongst them, which is all about that clear, effective communication, basically creating a standard. And if you're going to be electricity or a utility company now and you want to go and re-engineer that standard and go against that standard, you're nuts. You may as well just follow it. But again, it comes back to, those lessons come back to your books, comes back to your marketing of your books. Keep that in mind. Keep it simple. Keep it clear and concise. And don't burn calories. Will make a huge difference to your readers, to your target audience as well. So that's it for today's Saturday Live. So you can see, it's not about weight loss. It's about brain power. It's about getting people to not burn calories doing silly things or pointless things within your materials, your marketing and your manuscript, but get them to burn calories on enjoying your story, enjoying the content, getting value out of that content. Because when they do that, they're more likely to refer it on to others. They're more likely to share your story among others, more likely to get your story out there, which just means you're going to be more successful. So, hey, we all want to be that, don't we? So again, bear that in mind. Don't burn calories. Good. So at the end of the day, or end of this session for today, episode 9. So go off, have a great Saturday. Enjoy your weekend. And we look forward to catching up in History Creators in another day. Anyway, have fun. Bye now.